And I said that in order to really understand Purim, we have to start with Pesach. Not only is the Jewish calendar accurate in that the years are solar and months are lunar, but these 2 years are independent of one another. What I mean to say is, the first month of the year and the first day of the year don't match. The first day of the year is not in the first month of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Back in Egypt, the very first commandment the Jewish people got as a nation was the Jewish calendar. And they were taught that the first month of the year is Nisan. We celebrate Rosh Hashanah on the first day of the 7th month, Tishrei. So that the years and the months are 2 independent systems. The years go by the sun, and they begin in the autumn. The months go by the moon, and they begin in the spring.
Why wouldn't, if Rosh Hashanah marks the beginning of the year, why wouldn't it be on the same English day every year?
Because our calendar just adjusts itself, right? The two, we have a solar calendar, a lunar calendar, but they adjust themselves by adding an extra month when the seasons have to catch up with the real seasons. So it's not, we don't do it. The annual solar calendar is not precise because it's got months in it, and those months are lunar. So we just adjust it so it remains a solar year.
Also, the Gregorian calendar wasn't created for a lot longer. It was created in Roman times.
No, I know. I'm just saying
But the idea is we don't go by the solar calendar because there are no months in the solar calendar. And since we do want months, we have to have months. So what we do is we have a solar year that's comprised of months, but it's inaccurate, and then we make up for it by adjusting and adding the 13th month.
Okay.
Every 2 or 3 years.
But theirs adjust with February every 4 years. They add a day.
That's only because the solar year is 350. It's 365 and a quarter days. So every 4 years you got to add a day. Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the year, is the day that human life was given. That was the creation of man. We celebrate humanity in the autumn. Nisan is the month that the Jewish nation was created. And this is crucial in understanding what Pesach is. The Jewish nation was created in Nisan. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, this month shall be to you the first of the months.
Pesach is in Nisan?
Yes. The Gemara tells us that the nations of the world are compared to the sun and the Jewish people like the moon. The sun either shines in its full glory or is gone. The Jewish people were always waning and waxing. The Jewish people lives to know that every time we seem to be disappearing, give it some time, we'll be back out there. Whereas nations come and go. But good. So, the year for humanity begins in Tishrei. That's when we celebrate humanity. We celebrate human life. We spoke about it already. Human life means the life of an intelligent human being with free will. which is why it's the Day of Judgment. Nisan is the first month for the Jewish people. There we celebrate the birth of the Jewish nation. We celebrate Jewish life. There's human life and Jewish life. Human life is celebrated in Tishrei. Jewish life is celebrated in Nisan. Okay. What is Jewish life? What is Jewish life about? The Gemara tells us that when you tell the story of the Exodus at the Seder, on the night of Pesach, you cannot begin by talking about the miracles and our triumphant exodus from Egypt. You've got to begin with the enslavement. You have to begin by talking about the experience we had in Egypt as slaves, downtrodden, dehumanized. That's part of the story. What we're getting is a very important principle. Superficially, the way it's presented all over is that Pesach is a celebration of freedom from oppression. No, we're celebrating the oppression as well. We eat the poor man's bread and the bitter herbs. We are celebrating the slavery too. And we've got to ask ourselves the question, why did God subject us to this? It's very nice of him. He took us out of Egypt, we performed all these miracles, and became free men, and we're so thankful to him. If we do believe that God runs the world, why did he take us down to Egypt in the first place? Why were we slaves? Why is it we're thanking him for all the wonderful things he did, but he took us to Egypt? Why are we only given the credit for saving us? Why don't we have to come to terms with the fact that he also tortured us?
Couldn't this be like the why do bad things happen to good people or something like that?
But it's much more than that. It's something of an insult to us. Isn't this an insult to our intelligence? Here we are celebrating the fact that God took us out of Egypt when he's the one that put us there in the first place? How does that work? So when we're told that we have to celebrate the slavery, the enslavement, then we're being told that there's something special about the entire Egyptian experience, beginning with the slavery, going all the way through the miracles and our redemption. What is this slavery all about? Why did the Jewish nation need the Egyptian experience? What was it for? So, we have to appreciate as Jews that we've got this thing called a conscience. We've got all sorts of inner feelings that are inescapable as Jews. All of those years of enslavement and torture, we were being extracted from the material world. We were being separated from the material world, really losing our connection to it. And then that was replaced by a whole different form of living, a whole different form of life, which included all the miracles, spirituality, leading up to the revelation in Sinai. We became a different people. Deeply ingrained in the subconscious of every Jew is that nothing in this world will ever satisfy him unless he lives with meaning. This is the story of the Jewish nation, regardless of what color, flavor of Judaism you subscribe to, if you subscribe to Judaism altogether. Traditionally, when I say traditionally, historically, Jews have been at the forefront of every movement there's ever been. Every movement for social justice. Today's liberalism, as much as it goes against Torah, Jews are at the forefront of it. And why? Because the Jew lives for meaning. He doesn't always find the right one, but the Jew needs meaning in his life, or he will never be at peace with himself. The Jewish personality was formed in Egypt, whereby we were literally extricated from the family of nations, from normalcy, from normal humanity. Everything in life was not worth living for. We were denied everything. We were denied freedom. We were denied family. Our children were built into the walls. It's a miracle that there was a Jewish nation to come out of Egypt. We were told, should I say, dehumanized? Ramban points out that if you read carefully in the Chumash, not only were the Jews building cities for Pharaoh, but any Egyptian had the right to just take a Jew and have him do whatever he felt like. And he brings the Medrash that says that they had the Jews do all sorts of degrading stuff, cleaning they didn't have toilets, but cleaning out human waste, to dehumanize them. In the building, Rashi already points out, they were building cities that just couldn't last. They were building it was the wrong form of construction for that particular land. It's dehumanizing. I always tell the story. We had a group of Russian physicists that Reb Noach brought out of Russia after the fall of the Iron Curtain. They were unemployed, and he brought them here. They came to Israel to be trained to teach Jewish values back in Russia. And he said he would employ them, he'd pay them money. So in the process, they became observant, of course. But the idea was, so I remember we once had one Friday night, we had one of them over, and I asked him, what did he do there? So he actually was, he worked on production of the Scuds. I asked him what is he most proud of all his different accomplishments in life. He said at one point he was sent to Siberia, and he single-handedly had to build a 2-story log building. He was given a hatchet, had to chop down trees, and single-handedly build a 2-story building. He said the work was murder, it was freezing, but he never felt so good in his life. What Pharaoh did was he had the Jews not only work, but not see that they accomplished anything. And he built cities that couldn't last, cities that would collapse, not even giving that satisfaction. Forced labor that you wouldn't even appreciate because there was no final product to be proud of. They were dehumanized. They were totally dehumanized. We were extricated from the rest of humanity. And in what way? In terms of physicality. Physicality could never satisfy us if it's alone. This is the birth of the Jewish nation. A Jew's got to know that. You cannot conduct yourself in a way where all that counts is physicality and feel good about it, because you're Jewish. The Jewish conscience is there to haunt you till your dying day. You've got to live for meaning. Yeah.
Could you argue that that's like a all human trait?
The reality is not like that.
How so?
We are the only people on earth where there is no, Rama already wrote it, and it's true to this very day. There is no such thing as a Jewish community of any denomination without social services. There is no such thing. Without a charity fund. There's no such thing. Jewish culture. How about everything else in Jewish culture that's been lost? How come this hasn't been lost? People eat on Yom Kippur. People don't keep Shabbat. But social justice is on the top of their agenda. How come? Because they're Jews.
I guess.
I know somebody that he was interviewed for jury duty. You know, in the U.S., that's an obligation if you're called in. So in the interview, they have this whole process. They screen. One of the things they asked everybody there was are you involved in doing anything for your community? All the Jews had lists, and the non-Jews had none. It's so typical.
I guess I'm thinking like that's like community values, which I think are also embedded in Jews. I guess
It's not just the idea that you have a community. Italians have community too, but the idea that you care, that you do. I mean, come on, you know, what happened here? What happened, you know, in Israel? October 7th. I mean, when Jews everywhere, you know, came to identify, support. They were with the resource that were poured on Israel. Go find me another nationality that would do that for their nationals.
So that's what you're saying when it's, because I guess my thought was like more like in search for like spirituality and God and
meaning. Physicality alone doesn't do it for us. Every Jew needs meaning in his life, and that became, it's part of our DNA. It's inescapable. There's nothing you do to get rid of it.
And so you're comparing that with like the community.
I'm giving an example of social justice, the care for others. Okay.